As the night wore on and his driver dropped off mail sacks at the stations, Thomas's load grew lighter. Annie and Clarabelle were beginning to enjoy being out at night. They chattered noisily until the driver told them to be quiet. When Thomas stopped to take on water, the two carriages fell fast asleep. "Shall we wait a while?" asked the fireman. "I'm tired as well." "We can't," said Thomas. "We have to deliver all the mail before people get up in the morning." Just then, the driver looked up at the sky. There was not a star to be seen. "We'd better get a move on," he said. "I think a snowstorm is on its way." Reluctantly, Annie and Clarabelle woke up. Thomas and the mail train made good time, but even so, dawn was breaking when they arrived back at the engine shed. The fat controller was waiting for them. "Well done, everybody," he said. "Make sure you get a good sleep now. We should have a crane ready to put Percy back on rails tomorrow, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to go out again tonight." "That's all right," said Thomas, as he shunted safely back into his shed. "We enjoyed ourselves, didn't we?" But Annie and Clarabelle were sound asleep. His driver said, "Good night," or "Is it good morning, Thomas?" Thomas looked out of the shed window. He thought to himself, "I must ask the driver to fit the snowplough when he comes back," and then fell fast asleep. By the afternoon, the island of Sodor was covered in snow. Thomas, Annie and Clarabelle were rested and full of energy. The driver fitted the snowplough and they set off back to the mail depot. There, Percy was feeling foolish and thoroughly derailed. "I really am sorry about this, Thomas." "Don't worry," said Thomas. "The fat controller told me he will have a crane over here by tomorrow, so you don't have long to wait." This time, Annie and Clarabelle were enjoying the night's work. It grew colder and colder. Because he was working so hard and the fireman kept stoking the boiler, Thomas didn't notice. When they were crossing the bridge over the river, he suddenly heard a quacking sound. "It's a duck," Thomas said to himself. "What's he doing awake at this hour?" "Help!" quacked the duck. The driver looked over the bridge at the river. "It's Donald's duck and she's frozen," he said. "The river's all ice." "Help!" quacked Donald's duck once more. "I've damaged my wing. I can't fly and I can't get off the ice. I'm very cold and I'm quite hungry." Thomas explained the situation to the driver. "Oh dear," he replied. "It won't be safe for me or the fireman to go on the ice, but we just can't leave her there. We'll have to call for help." Thomas whistled loudly for about 10 minutes. For miles around, lights came on in the houses as people wondered who was making all that noise in the middle of the night. But no one came to find out why. Thomas tried again. "Shh," said the fireman. "I can hear something." In the distance was the whirring sound of Harold the helicopter. Thomas whistled again, and before long Harold was hovering overhead. "Evening, Thomas," he called. "I'm on safety patrol because of the bad weather. You know, rescuing people and that sort of thing. It looks as if I'm needed here. Well, you can depend on me." "Quack," said the duck. "Quack what?" asked Harold. The driver explained. "If you can just go and rescue Donald's duck," he said, "we can take care of her on the train." "Easy," said Harold, and flew down towards the river. But it wasn't easy. Every time Harold drew near to Donald's duck, the wind from the rotor blades blew her across the ice so that she couldn't hop on board. "Wait!" shouted Thomas. "I've got an idea. Why don't you sort of blow her towards the riverbank?" It was a very good idea. Harold carefully positioned himself and blew Donald's duck towards the side of the frozen river. Once there, she hopped onto Harold and was carried to the bridge where Thomas was waiting. "Well done, Harold," said Annie and Clarabelle. "You are our hero." "Just doing my job," said Harold. Then he flew off in search of someone else to rescue. The fireman and driver soon had Donald's duck warm and snug at the back of the cab. "The wing is not badly hurt," said the fireman. "You'll be as right as rain in a couple of days." "Quack! I'd rather be as right as rain, quack, than as wrong as ice," quacked Donald's duck. When they returned to the shed, the fat controller gave his driver and fireman permission to take care of Donald's duck for a few days until she recovered. "But first," he said, "you must get some rest. You've all worked splendidly and helped us out of a difficult situation. I'll tell the others not to disturb you until you've had some sleep." But they had very little sleep that day, and for the next 3 days Donald Duck would not stop talking. She talked about this, and she talked about that, or she talked about nothing at all. She was having a quacking good time, and she wanted everyone to know about it. Quack! All the engines and carriages liked her very much, but they were pleased when the ice melted and Donald Duck flew back to the river.